This is Tammy with But First Let's Read. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my all-time favorite stories. It is actually a duet by author M. Robinson, and it is Road to Nowhere Ends Here. And this is my autographed copy that I normally keep up on my shelf. I normally don't like to say that I have a favorite book. I feel like choosing a favorite book is like picking your favorite child. You really don't do that. I mean, I have favorite books by different genres. I have favorite books by different authors. But if I was forced to pick just one book as a favorite, then this duet would be it. Road to Nowhere Ends Here by M. Robinson. If you're not familiar with author M. Robinson, Monica Robinson, her followers, her fans know her as the Queen of Angst, and she really is, and she does know how to bring the angst, and she definitely brings it with this duet. So much that I remember I had actual anxiety attacks, like on the verge of panic when I was reading these stories. I mean, it was that overwhelming to me, to the point that I remember being in my car one day with my then 12-year-old, and I was, everything was just weighing so heavily on me. I couldn't, get these books out of my head, and so I was kind of telling him about it, not going into details obviously, but giving him the gist of it. And I remember he looked at me and he said, "Mom, you just have to remember they're not real people." And to me, that's an amazing story. If I'm so engrossed in a book that when I'm reading it that I forget that they're not just characters on a page, if I can forget that, they're not really going through this stuff, I'm not living this stuff. If I can forget all that, then that is an amazing story. And that is this duet. Now, I will say this story is not going to be for everyone. It is a bit of a forbidden, it's a taboo romance. It has some triggers. The main relationship of the story is Creed and Mia. And I will go on the record as saying that Creed Jamison will forever be my #1 book boyfriend. I don't think anyone can dethrone Creed Jamison. Mia, when the story starts, is a very young girl. And Creed is several years older than her. I want to say he's like 8 years older than her. So he's a teenager, she's a child. He's kind of starts off as her little crush. One thing about Monica Robinson's books, a lot of her characters start in childhood. So I think to me that is very interesting because, a lot of our grown-up relationships, our adult relationships, our views on love or romance or, our beliefs stem from our childhood, the relationships we had with our parents or our friends or our siblings. And a lot of her books do start with children, and then you get to see those children grow and become teenagers and adults and see how, that all evolves. So the story does start when Mia is a child, and her and Creed's actual relationship does start when she is still a minor. So she is a teenager, she is underage. Everything's consensual, there's nothing coerced. I mean, she is in love with this man, and she is very mature for her age. There are some other things that happen along in this story that do make her grow up a little faster than I think, she probably should have. So really, when you're reading the book, you tend to forget that she's a teenager. But I know that's an issue, for some people. They're not into the taboo relationships. It also is an MC romance. It is a motorcycle club, so there is some violence, there's murder, there's death of loved ones, there's a love triangle, so there's an aspect of war with the military a little bit. So there are some triggers, so if any of that bothers you, this may not be the book for you, but if you're not bothered by any of that, highly recommended duet. Creed and Mia, again, their relationship starts when she's very young, and they just go through so many things, and I don't want to go into details because I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's just heartbreaking. It is a heartbreaking story. There are just moments that I cried so hard I had to put the page down, just because my heart broke for these characters, especially for Creed, because, he's my favorite. This book is actually a spinoff. Monica Robinson has a series that started all of this. It's called The Good Old Boys. So you might want to check that out. It starts, the very first book is Complicate Me, and it's a 4-book series, and then they have all these spinoffs. all the books can be read as standalones, so don't think that, well, if I start this, I'm going to have to read 7 or 8 books. You're not. You can read them all on their own. I actually read the 4th book of The Good Old Boys first, and then I kind of went backwards. Then I came back to the spin-offs, and honestly, when I picked up this duet, at first I didn't even realize what I was picking up. I didn't realize that it was a spin-off, and then there was a particular scene that I remembered from the ending of one of the other books, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I know this. So, you know, you don't have to read them all, but they're all very, very good books, so I suggest them. So again, if you want to check it out, it's Road to Nowhere Ends Here. It's by author M. Robinson. One of the best duets, my favorite story, and again, if you're looking for a good book boyfriend, Creed Jameson, I highly recommend him. So check it out. And until next time, I am going to go read.